chunk of it is down to domestic violence, a chunk of it is down to casual unpleasantness, bad people doing bad things. But a chunk of it is down to gangs, and we know a lot of that is related to drugs and alcohol abuse. As I was saying earlier, there is a market out there for these organisations. They are phenomenally professional. They're as good at what they do as some of the best retailers. They have targeted emailing lists. They know what people's preferences are. They know what time is a good time to be in a certain area. We need to get grips with that. And I think if we can tackle those two together, again, working with partners, we can reverse quite a lot of the increase in serious violent crime we've seen across the piece. On Monday, to find new ideas really for how we can actually work together to tackle these sorts of issues. And then the big one really at the end, making the police more local, visible and accessible. I think that is absolutely at the core of the prevention work. The middle three are very much really about when crime has happened, how we get to it. To an extent, identifying vulnerable and high-risk people, using the intelligence, sharing information between the various different partner organisations, and making sure that we help people not be in the sort of space where it's going to happen. But really, in terms of crime prevention, we need to be able to know where we can find the police and when. 999 works brilliantly. If there's actually a crisis happening, they come. I've been out, already scared myself witness actually, being out with the police on a night duty with a chief inspector in a very fast car, following the radio around the county, picking up on serious events, dressed in a stab vest. They've actually got chainmail. Do you know that? Well, these guys didn't know that. I didn't know that. Didn't know that. That felt like a medieval night almost. On the
cruiser issue again, been a problem for a number of years in the past. From some of the people that have worked in the district for longer than I. Traditionally a seasonal thing, more of a spring-summer issue. It seems to be more of a year-round problem now. And you're right, probably more concentrated to the east of the borough. We've got an operation in place, Operation Sacrifice, and the community policing team have been doing some great work again in the last couple of months, which you're right, probably we do need to publicise more. Our Facebook will help with that, our local, our central presence will help with that as well. But we do have a motorbike team. They actually work out of the casualty reduction section, which is based at South Woodham, but they come over here frequently. In fact, I would say we probably get a better service in this district from casualty reduction than a number in the district, in the force, sorry. But what I would say is the issue around motorbikes is difficult. We won't pursue a motorbike because of the safety implications. And again, stating the obvious, motorbikes can go far more places than a car can, and somebody on a police officer on a push bike or on foot, and so on. So it's a difficult job. I'm not saying it's impossible. But what we do is we are liaising with landowners, and some of this takes place on Thurrock Council land. Some of it takes place on private land, and we liaise again with landowners to see whether or not is it feasible to have somewhere bespoke for people to go and ride, because ultimately my impression is people just want to ride their bikes. If you can find somewhere safe to do that, at the moment that's proving quite difficult. Then that's something we'll explore. What we've done in the last few months certainly is we've seized a number of bikes that have been ridden antisocially. We can give people warnings under Section 59 of the Police Reform Act. If people do ride antisocially, they get a warning. Second strike, we can then seize that bike, and we've done that a number of times. And again, what I'll do, I'll just take it away from here.
Support is usually organisational based to victim support, but there are other victim support services, so we would hope you take that on board when you're.
It wasn't supposed to be the brand name, it was supposed to be the
Right,
overall.
because that gets confusing, using the brand name.
I'm not confused with that.
So we hope that any support that would be offered to victims and services that work with victims who've experienced sexual violence would be reflected in your new plan. And of course we'd engage in a consultation process with that. A service user has asked to come with us tonight, so she wants to ask you a direct question. And just to say that her offender has received a 15-year prison sentence, which we're very proud about.
Hello, yeah. Saying you're looking at working with people with domestic violence, and you want to work alongside protecting the victims and the vulnerable. I'd just like to ask what your plan would be to work alongside children that have been sexually abused and adult survivors of sexual abuse. I know there's thousands of people in Essex that are survivors, and I'm one of them. So obviously I want to know that children are protected and that the adult survivors are going to be protected. So I'm just wondering what your plan would be, as well as working with domestic violence, what your plan would be working with people that have been sexually abused.
I think it has to be exactly. We've published, we're just publishing now, aren't we, the policy implications of the manifesto and the covering that to it. And quite clearly in there, we say that the specialist support for the vulnerable is absolutely something that we're wanting to boost and bolster. That is clearly part of the direct commissioning from the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner. And it will be provided by third-party organisations with specialist abilities such as your own. That's the plan.
Okay, that's what I was concerned about, that
Yes.
it's going to be, as well as domestic violence, it's going to be for
Yes.
all types
Just
of
done
violence.
4 months of Children County. What you say there is an absolutely consistent comment. People do not believe crime figures that go down, they do believe crime figures that go up. We have to work with the data that we get. Given that we have been very successful in getting more reporting of new types of crime, I am reluctant to believe that it is simply as trying to avoid reporting ASB. But what we're not saying is that it's gone away. It might be down by around 6%, but it's certainly something that needs to be addressed. And
The reason it's down, I think, is because people just don't ring in about it.
well, you say that, but they are reading about other stuff.
Yeah, because we've been told, or at previous meetings and forums and things, that you must ring in. Now,
Yeah.
it must be driving the police mad for people to be ringing in, getting an incident number, when, if in the first place they could deal with the issue, and I know what John's going to say now, about turning up.
Yeah, because I had a situation with regard to damage to wing mirrors by a man late at night, early hours in the morning around the Blackshirts area, was walking past cars, kicking the wing mirrors off. Someone phoned up the police, and the response back was that, well, we've only got one car in the area, but they can't come because 2 women are driving that car, or in that car, and they are concerned about their safety.
Really? Right.
Yes.
When was that, recently?
Yes.
Did you, out of interest, did you write to PCC's office about this? Because I've answered a very similar question. Right, okay. Let me try and answer this. So, damage to wing mirrors won't be ASB, that'll be criminal damage. So that'll be crime, so not ASB. So there's a definite difference there.
Yeah, that's probably where it's happening, isn't
Well,
it? It's reporting differently
yeah.
now, adding up differently.
Well, it's not different now. It would have always been the case. That is damage. That is not ASB. I mean, let's be frank here. Let's be frank. What is ASB is it's very borderline whether it's crime or not. And some things ASB probably are crime, aren't they? But we deal with ASB as certain different things. Really, it's around nuisance, it's around location. We used to have 15 or so different types of ASB that we could categorise. Now, if you were to ring in to the control room, our call takers will apply what's called a Thrive principle around threat, harm and risk. Is there any areas of vulnerability associated with what's being reported? And they have to make, based on what you say, they have to make a decision, a sound decision really, based on what you've said, what sort of response grade that incident needs. Now, right, if somebody's kicking off a wing mirror, but elsewhere in the district there is a domestic abuse incident going on or a robbery in progress, which could happen, the robbery will get priority. Honestly, and I'd like to think you would agree with that.
So we've heard of those.
Yeah, no, I know, so I'm not going to tell you something that you don't know, but so damage is damage, so park that. But in terms of ASB, we have, again, some really good processes in this district. We have locality action groups, LAGs, for short, which have been around for, again, long before I got here. Again, multi-agency, round the table, talking about repeat and vulnerable victims of ASB and hate crime. That's been now echoing Brentwood, so we're exporting ideas. Community policing team, the neighbourhood policing team before that, dealing with repeat and vulnerable victims and locations, going back to what Joy said around.
I do understand that. The government are more responsible for that than anyone else. But we can't keep living where we're scared to go to our own shops. As a woman, whilst I have a partner, he shouldn't have to escort me to the shops so that I feel safe. I should not have to worry about my 10-year-old daughter being able to leave her house by herself because I've got children at the bottom of my road, and they are children, having sex in the middle of our park. For children throwing glass bottles all over our play areas. People walking around letting their dogs defecate all over our play areas. And whilst these seem like such silly little issues, it's a living hell. We've lived there 14 years. When we first moved there, we moved from Seabrook and it seemed like heaven on earth. There was, in fairness, no crime when we first moved to Stifford, or not any that we see. And then we gradually got children coming up the road smashing cars. And then because they see no police presence, the next holiday come round, more cars got broken. And it's a continuing issue. I've had a couple of my friends recently have had their wing mirrors smashed, like those people have experienced, with blood, physical DNA evidence left on the cars. Nothing done. Still, all right, you might have been looking for them, but as far as we can see, nothing's been done.
Okay.
Then there's the fact that they come up and they kicked our wing mirror. We have a mobility car. So thankfully, if ours gets damaged, it gets fixed. But not everyone else has that luxury. Now ours, thankfully, it's got a clutch within the mechanism, so it didn't break our mirror. Poor lady down the road, however, just a couple of £100 replacing her wing mirror, she got it on camera. Police officer turns up, oh sorry, we've got 4 RTAs, so this is not top of our priority list. Which I can understand that, road traffic accidents are a lot more important than a busted wing mirror. But to turn up, tell us, your situation's not serious, so we're going to go elsewhere. If they've got 4 other RTAs, why did they even come? Why not wait until they could actually give that victim the support and time she needed? And they still didn't take our evidence and deal with it.
17 jobs, 17 different offensive criminal damage around your area, rather than having 17 different officers in the case. So pull them all together, one investigation. I won't go into the detail here. I'm confident there will be a result on the back of that. We'll make sure that you get an update on that. We do occasionally get states of damage where wing mirrors and cars will be broken, damage rather. They come and they go. Now, I'm not belittling damage to a wing mirror because if it was mine, it's inconvenience, it's cost, it's insurance claim, whatever the case is. I think what we need to do is you've raised a number of issues. They are serious matters. If that's going on in a local park, children should be able to go to a park and have fun. That's what they're there for. Should be able to go to a shop without fear. I think what we need to do is probably speak afterwards. I'll get some details from you. I'll get the local neighbourhood officer to give you a call personally, and let's look into it. Is that all right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Just on the back of that, I'd like to add, I live opposite the park on Blackthorn Road. It's bordered with Blackthorn Road, Meadow Road and Fairway and different place.
Yep.
I think it's probably exactly the same group of kids, to be fair. Because they are children, ranging from sort of 13 to 17, perhaps.
Okay.
We can get as many as 30 at any one time. Mainly weekends, mainly evenings, so the children that want to go to the park are maybe not so affected. However, I've got a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. I don't want to take them there anymore. There's broken glass, there are gas ampules, there are drug packets. It's very obviously a part where drug dealing takes place. Cars will pull up at any hour of the day or night. Quick handshake and off they go. It's well known. I personally sent letters around to everybody that lives around just to see what kind of support there would be. I got 22 households that said they've had enough. And that was about 50% response. So it is a big problem. I think I have made yourselves aware as well as councillors, I believe. Yeah. So
How long ago was that?
that was the beginning of May. But it literally is, it's dangerous. Especially at this time of year you know, nice evenings like this. They're there every day.
Well, okay, forgive me, I mean, some of the detail I'm not going
Of
to
course.
know. Again, say if it's linked,
I'm
let's have a
pretty
chat
sure it's
afterwards.
Summer holidays are the
Well,
worst in Stifford,
Yeah,
because
and
kids
we're
are
coming
off.
into the summer holidays will only be a month, 6 weeks away, won't they? So, the fact is, parks are great, should be able to, kids should be able to go and
They're not
enjoy
being
themselves.
used for...
No, of
they
course
should
not.
be.
So we need to work with the council, the parks department as well.
The worst thing is that I've actually, my mum lived in the Newham County,
Right.
and her parks, considering they're in London, and that's supposed to be the worst crime place in the world, their parks are an absolute joy. And they really are. And that's horrible to say that I have to travel out of my area into the capital city to take my child to green space.
You don't, I mean, I think what we need to do is just, let me have a chat with you both afterwards. It sounds like it's one of the same thing. The issue around the wing mirrors, I'm confident it's the same job I'm thinking of. I'm fairly confident with that we're going to get a good result now, because we do get these rates, they do come, it's not a daily occurrence, but we'll chat afterwards.
Well, I just enjoyed that conversation really, because the parks are important spaces in the borough. There's a park that's not being used or not able to be used, and it's full of glass, broken glass, and little or whatever, then we need to know about that. We'll go to sort of
Yeah,
the council.
with respect, you get told about that. I live in Abley,
Yeah.
and your men that come in and clean, and then one day it turns out I think 3 mornings a week last week. He said, I have an hour here, that's all I'm allowed. What I can't pick up in that after that hour has to remain. That defeats the object.
Yeah.
Because more glass, people see they just the boys and girls throw more glass on top. So you're not giving them enough time to actually clean up the mess.
So we need to work to stop the glass being dropped in the first place. What is drop, pick it up, and make the park a usable space.
I think Bob was on the beat, the answer. Mr. Olsen didn't feel they did any good, would they do any good, if they ever did, and that was a comment in the after wrote the Times.
I think with that, I think, obviously, as an ex-police officer, there is value in that, but it's not the catch-all, is it? We have to look at the bigger picture. You know, what's there for young people to do around the area? You know, can we had an issue 3 years ago over in Purfleet, damage over there, arson, and fire damage to a park there. I'm really into football. We organised a football match between police and kids on the estate over there. I think it did some good. I haven't got a lot, but I think it did some good. Maybe we need to look at something else. I'm just trying to think. We have, in accordance with agree, police officers, police themselves, whatever the case is one tactic. It's not. It's not going to solve
We're going to do more community policing, but actually what we're seeing here is something that needs a specific response.
Exactly.
That's what we're going to do.
They need somewhere to go. So
Exactly, yeah, that's part of it.
as you say, it's a displacement issue.
Something happens and the police tend to prepare a press release in case somebody asks. They're not. They don't actually send it out, which is unfamiliar to me as both an analyst and a businessman and a councillor. I think we've got something to say. We ought to say it, and very often we do have something to say, but we think we'll save it up in case there's an inquiry comes along. Now, if it's bad news, it might. Maybe the press will shoot.
Roger Hirst, your first meeting.
Yes.
How do you think it went?
Well, for me it was extremely interesting. Picked up on a lot of local issues that I otherwise wouldn't have known about, and I hope it was an opportunity as well for me to sort of give the big picture about how I see policing in Essex developing over the next few years. I think it gets the ball rolling. The police and crime plan is of necessity something where it needs to be an iterative process. I know already what feedback I've had in the course of the election campaign. I know what I had before I started the election campaign from MPs, from councillors, from community representatives, from community groups I spoke to when putting together the manifesto. But, we put a plan together in draft and we consult on it. This sort of thing is getting people interested, hopefully getting them engaged in wanting to give us the feedback about what they think is important. And that's what the role of the PCC is.
So, stylistically, how do you think you will differ from Nick Olsen?
Nick knows a lot technically about policing. I am much more experienced in public administration. and in public accountability. So Nick had been a civil servant all his life before he started doing this sort of stuff. I've been a councillor for quite a long number of years, deputy leader of the council, cabinet member of the committee. I hopefully can get involved. I mean, I really care about what these people think.
And you're not, I guess what people want to see, and other Conservatives, I suppose, across the county, they don't want to see you as a fan of the Chief Constable. They want to see you critical fan is the polite term.
That is the polite term. I think the way I see it is, I'll probably draw a good comparison with a big company. Yeah? In a big company there is a chief executive who runs the business day to day. That is the chief constable. He knows about policing, he knows what works and what doesn't, he has more in his head about that than I will ever have. It needs a chairman to hold that person to account. I am an executive chairman in that regard. They're the person who appoints and dismisses the chief executive. That's what my role with the chief is. They're also the person who's accountable to the shareholders, i.e. in my case the public. Yeah? And if I do that well, then I will be holding the chief constable to account. But you would not expect, in normal circumstances, the chairman and chief executive of a company to be at loggerheads all the time. It should be a good partnership where I offer guidance, where I'm a good sounding board, as you say, critical where it needs to be done. Most of the time, we should be getting the police to move in the direction that we want them to move in.
I guess there's a certain element in this meeting that some might say there are Conservative councillors and Conservative PCCs who have voted for cuts in the police. The police numbers have been eviscerated in this county. And
I think that's a bit harsh. They're down by about 600 to 2,850.
Okay, we can disagree. Who are saying we can't get sufficiently many police around here. And yet this austerity campaign, you voted for this.
Absolutely, I voted for this. Austerity is the fastest way to growth. Stable money is the best way to good business and sound family finances and happy people. The alternative we were seeing was inflation rates running for the elderly, for the poor, with rates and rents and food inflation running rampant, 12-13% per annum. Their living standards dropping like a stone until we took over and rebalanced the books. The fact that rebalancing the books means that we can't afford everything we could when we were borrowing our pants off, I'm afraid, is just reality. We have to make sure it goes a long way. Part of my expertise, with 30 odd years experience of this sort of stuff, is helping that taxpayer pound go further. And I'm very confident that if we do the stuff that I was talking about this evening, with new technologies, with reshaping the force, with rebalancing the priorities, we can actually get what people want, which is more visible policing again.
Okay, thank you very much.